What's up, everyone? Welcome back to our coverage of Amazon freebies, The GOAT, over here on the Hit or Quit podcast. We are back for episode 5. I am Jenny Autumn, joined by the GOAT himself, Mr. Chappelle. Chappelle, how's it going?
Bye. Were they bye? That was the sound that they were making in the episode, right? Wendell and them were sitting
Bye,
around.
bitch.
But
Which could
but
just
it's
be
like
Jason saying bye, bitch.
right, but is bye, is that how goats sound?
Well, this is what we've learned, Chappelle, is that apparently goats and sheep make similar noises.
Is
This
that is
was a
that is
great
that canon?
thing.
Is that true
I don't
though?
know. This was like a philosophical conversation I wasn't prepared for because it wasn't something I had actually given a lot of thought to because I I think maybe it's similar. Is it the exact same?
Yeah, if you ask me what sound a goat makes, I would say it bleats. But I don't know what
Yeah.
a bleat sounds like. Like a meh.
Um that's a good question. I feel like maybe the goat noise is like a little deeper. It's like or
Oh.
like lower. It's like more like "Mrrr." And like
Ah.
the sheep is a little bit more high pitched, like the bleat. Should we Google this? What sound?
I'm typing it
This
in.
is what everyone what sound
No,
does a goat make?
you have to say what does the goat say? You know,
Say
like the song.
"Dee, dee, 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 dee,
Dee, dee, dee, dee. Yeah, that's what my goat
dee."
say. This
uh
says nah nah.
ooh na na.
No nah 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 nah.
Okay, well, according to the list of animal sounds page on Wikipedia, they also attribute the goat to have the bleat. They say the description is either a bleat or a ma.
Ma.
Um, which
So not
I think
ba, but
it's
ma.
not ba, it's ma.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
Close enough, I suppose. But now, this is we could be potentially spoiling a future challenge on the
Mm.
goat because, you know, tonight we got spelling, but in the future we could just have them, they have to hear an animal noise and they have to figure
Mhm.
out if it's a goat or a sheep. Um,
That'd be
and that
tough.
sounds way harder than any of the challenges they've done. That might be too
Definitely
hard.
harder. It's definitely harder than the spelling bee. It's definitely harder than that. There because I don't know. Maybe the pressure's on. You're stirring risotto.
Yeah.
The words are coming in. They're not exactly phonetic, all of them. Maybe that was tough in the moment, but watching the spelling competition at home,
Yeah.
I was really
It
pushing
was
for these
it
reality
was
people to
rough.
step it up. Yeah, that was tough. It was tough.
But you know what? I should not be too self-congratulatory in this moment because I just had a eureka moment right in this exact moment.
Wow, you just
So
figured out there was a spelling bee and then a bee in the cooking competition?
yes, yes, because okay. So for the listeners, Chappelle and I were quickly chatting before we started recording, and I was like, do you have any idea why Tosh was dressed like a bee? And I don't know if you were playing me or if you were being truthful in that moment when you said you had no idea.
No, see, here's the thing. I understand that there is a spelling bee and then there's also a
You
in the competition, but I do not know why there's a bee in the competition. You know
I
what I'm saying? Like the
completely
spelling
forgot about
yeah,
the spelling bee part of it.
right. See, I
Um,
understand that there's now a bee in
yeah,
both of them, but I don't understand why there's a bee in the second one. You know what I'm saying? Like I get that
it
there's a
has
parallel there, but why
it
did we
has
have to make it?
and it had nothing to do with cooking.
Nothing.
So I truly just think, and if for any reason, if you missed this, Daniel Tosh was dressed in a bee costume for part of this episode, and the elimination challenge was a spelling bee, but the whole
Mhm.
theme of the week was cooking shows, and I just
And
was
not
like,
bees.
and
Mhm.
nothing to do with bees, but I found it so absurd and could make no sense of it that I totally forgot that the reason that he was probably wearing the bee costume was because they were doing a spelling bee. It
But
still
why?
does I
Because the
know.
spelling bee was gone by that time. You could have left the bee behind. You didn't need
Yeah,
it
because he was wearing he was not even dressed as the bee for the
for the
spelling
spelling bee.
bee. Yeah, it
Exactly.
was
Was
this
okay,
show is absurd.
let's talk it out. Was it
Okay.
because they were making sandwiches for like a picnic, and sometimes picnics have bees. Maybe yes? No?
That's
Am I tripping?
I mean, sure, that at least you could draw a line of logic there, but I feel like it's so random. However, while Tosh is dressed in the bee costume, it seems, unless it was fabricated, a bee like swarms by him and he says, "I'm your mother." So, I mean, you don't even, and perhaps the bees were around because of the scent of the foods to make a sandwich were in the area attracting the bees. But I mean, ants could get attracted to food on a
Yeah.
picnic. Like,
Yeah, bears as well. You know, there's plenty of animals that we could have gone with. He
yeah.
said it was a political statement, Jenny, and when he said that, I just said, "Okay," and
Okay.
left it alone. Yeah.
I was like, is this, I'm Canadian. Is this like a deep cut American political reference that I perhaps am just no. At least not that you're aware of, because this is why I
Yeah.
asked you. I was like, was there something to the bee? Because I did not get it.
No.
No, this
I
was just Tosh
mm.
leaning into the absurdity.
Well, we say that, and then everybody in the comments are like, "No, you idiots! It's a B
Yeah.
because blah 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 blah." In
And you know what?
2014, the such and such. I'm like, okay, you
I'll wear
congratulations.
that. I'll wear that like mustard all over my body, if
Hmm.
I'm making myself a sandwich. Not making myself a sandwich to eat, making myself
Making
into
your
a
turning
sandwich.
yourself into a sandwich,
Becoming a
exactly.
sandwich.
Becoming one with
Um,
the mustard. Hmm.
yeah. If that's the case, then it was lost on both of us. What an absurd string of costumes and challenges here on this episode. I really think that maybe they just have and again, this is like one of the things I do sort of love about this show is that it's so low budget
Hmm.
in the like challenge um portion that I bet they just have like a trunk full of a tickle trunk, for those who
Ah,
are acquainted with the term, of costumes and random props, and they're like, maybe something will come up with like this. And I think that the bee costume was in there, and Tosh just wanted to wear it.
that's it. That's probably what it
Like,
was. Because
that's
I can't think of any reality TV shows either, right? Like
yeah.
the Singing Bee was a competition show, but I wouldn't call it reality. Um,
And why wouldn't they have done that during the like talent week, like the talent competition shows?
mhm.
So it's again, we're doing a spelling bee for the cooking shows, and then he's
A
wearing a bee
giant bee for the
costume
sandwich making competition.
for a
Exactly.
different portion where it's like I truly just think that he is here to subvert our expectations and to keep us on our toes and to give us this ridiculous content to speak about, because that was the biggest one of the biggest questions that I walked away from this episode was what the hell was with the bee? And I still don't really know, but you know, I'm enjoying that. Like it's still making me laugh. This show is very unserious.
Mhm. And I'm an unserious person, so this is right up my alley, right? Like, what
Right.
do I complaining about the absurdity of this show when I'm tuning in every week to Amazon Preview to watch it and then to talk about it with you. So
And
keep doing what
taking
you
like listen, I'm a ridiculous person. I'm taking notes of every word that needed to be spelled, like the most basic ass words. Um
Mhm.
I'm taking this show so serious, but in the most unserious of ways because it is truly ridiculous. I feel like, you know, uh, we're kind of in another more so like the last episode was a bit of like calm before the next storm. And I feel like, this episode it's like still building to something. Like I feel like we must still be building to something because I know one, we've seen previews of conflict that has not yet erupted. So one, we have the data to know that some of these people are going to be beefing at some point in the future and we have
Mhm.
yet to see that come to fruition. And two, it's just kind of like do you feel like because we didn't get a lot of explanation at the end of the episode. Do you feel like this was a both sides just kind of finding a common denominator situation, or do you think shots were fired? This was a dub for Devon and Jill and Paula, and I guess by proxy now Joe. And we just didn't really get a full explanation of their victory, because this is a bit like, this is kind of a weird week, and I feel like the Devon versus Wendell war is still just heating up.
Yeah, no, I feel like this is a win for Team Devon. I
Yeah.
do. I think that originally they came in, they knew they had to get some men out of this, seemingly, with the supermajority, this men's alliance plus CJ. And then we hear Wendell at the beginning of the episode saying, yeah, I'd be willing to let go of Joe. He's at the lowest rung. He's the most expendable person. Let's just chop him off, and then people won't keep saying, oh, look at all you men working together. We don't stand a chance. Like it kind of opens more doors when you let some of the men go. But being that there's a double elimination this week, and they end up losing, not only they lose Joe, but they also lose Justin, who we have seen as a big part of this alliance. I think that this is an L. I think that they were not prepared for this. And it completely flips the house on its side to where Wendell has lost his majority, essentially. I don't think this is just getting rid of somebody to kind of keep the peace like it would have been. I think that the double elimination really threw a wrench into some things. And now I'm kind of interested to see what happens left, because I believe there's only 8 people left in the house.
Yeah.
And are the numbers even? What is the split now?
They are even. If you are considering that the 3 women, or sorry, not so Jill, Devon, and Paula, if they have truly taken Joe over to their side and have become a 4, then the numbers are truly 4v4, because early in the episode, we hear Wendell talk through his super majority alliance, he calls it. He says he's in alliance with 6 of the 10 total people in the house, with one of those people being him. So really 6 of 9 other people are his alliance. And then we got a graphic to confirm who he's talking about. And it's Reza, it's Justin, it's Joe, CJ, Jason, and Tech. And with 2 of those going out the door here, then we would say, okay, well, Wendell's super majority alliance has become not even a non-super majority.
Right. It's actually an even split, because what is it? Reza, Wendell. Yeah, it's Reza, Wendell, the chef, and CJ, right? That's the 4.
Yes,
and then
but
on the other side,
he counts Joe in his alliance early in this episode, and it does seem he was maybe doing some work to protect. I'm confused again. No. I'm confused about what Wendell was doing here, because we're seeing how he's talking to Joe, but early in the episode, he's saying he's willing to let Joe loose to give the indication to the women that he's not just trying to pick them off. What went wrong here? I'm so confused, because is there a world where Wendell comes out of this thinking that he might still have Joe, or does he think or know that he's completely gone to the women?
I was never under the impression that Wendell and Joe were on the same page. Like, it's because Joe said
he listed him in his alliance. Well, he didn't say the names, to be fair. The show put his picture on the screen.
Yeah. And even then, that's probably to lead us to believe that Wendell incorrectly thinks that Joe's a part of his alliance because he's one of the men. Right. Because when Wendell goes to Joe, Joe's like, so voting to keep me? And Wendell's like, oh, Joe, what do you mean? Why would you take me to dinner first? Oh my God. Hi, Wendell. How are you? What's your day like? You don't do that to your alliance members. Your alliance member, like, bro, chill. We got it. You know what I'm saying? But he was dancing around the question, tap dancing the entire time. Yeah. Joe asked him like point blank, because Wendell's like, so whose votes do you think you have? And he names a couple people. And then Joe goes, well, Wendell, who are you voting for? And Wendell's like, come on, Joe.
Why are we talking about this?
What are we talking about? That's not how you treat somebody that's solid in your alliance.
Even if I agree with the sentiment that Wendell is expressing in this moment, I thought that that itself felt like bad social game to me, or maybe just not optimal social game, in how he acknowledges to his face Joe be's like, oh, I gotta teach you how to like social game, like you're not gonna warm me up first. Like he said the quiet part out loud, and that I'm like, Wendell, like I know that you're like one of the few people here with a competition reality show background and a competition reality show win, of course. So yeah, you are in a league of your own here to a degree. But like you got to say that shit in confessional, my guy. Like
Mhm.
you can't be saying to Joe's face like I need to teach you social game. I'm like that in itself is not finesse in my
Right.
opinion. So that was like hilarious in that moment to me where I'm like, "Oh, you're both wrong actually."
No, it just felt like a deflection. Like, hey, are you voting for me? Joe, there's this other thing I want to talk to you about first. But let's talk about your social games. Like, or counterpoint, tell me if you're voting to keep me or not. He's like,
Yeah.
Joe, baby, what are you talking about? Say yes or no, yes or no. And,
Yeah.
and the answer is always yes. You always lie. You always say, yeah, got you, 100%. You're my team. Because we do see that the downside to not making Joe feel comfortable is that Devon and who else is on her team? Devon
Jill,
and Jill. Yeah, Devon and
Paula.
Jill specifically though
Yeah.
are really working
Those are
to get
the
Joe on their side. They've
yeah.
identified he's the loosest link, and they're like, okay, if we can get Joe to flip, we're gonna be Gucci. And on top of all of that, they don't know this, but there's a double elimination. There's a chance you can get
Mhm.
out two of the guys, and their targets are on Wendell and Reza right now. So yeah, if
Yeah.
this goes wrong, Wendell and Reza are up for elimination potentially. Joe's not voting to keep Wendell, not like this. So yeah, this
Yeah.
was a kind of a fumble, but the double elimination did them no favors.
No, this was a really unfortunate situation, because, numbers are already low when one team is like, there's only one team vulnerable, and when that team is the one that also has the GOAT on it, that takes another number off the table because 'cause they're safe no matter what, and now we're getting rid of 2. However, and we'll get to this in some more detail because I think that this is where things maybe went wrong was this was a complicated situation because the 2 top vote getters are the ones that are eliminated here, and it wasn't like you had to cast your vote for 2 people. There weren't going to be 20 votes. It was simply you cast your vote for one person, and whoever gets the top 2 votes are still going home. So I think that this opened the door for people to try to game this, to be like, okay, if we can figure out where people are throwing their votes, we don't even necessarily need to have a majority of votes to have like it be the second person with the most votes. And I really do think that that's how they ultimately get rid of Justin here. I don't know if Wendell and the rest of the alliance were planning to part with tech, and like because that's again I'm like, how did this go wrong? Because the if you are Wendell's super majority alliance, how is this not the easiest dub to get out Joe and Paula? Those were the 2. There's 4 people at risk, and 2 of them are in the alliance. Well, 3 of them are technically in the alliance, but we've already acknowledged that one of them is the one that gets cut loose. I am dying for an explanation of where everyone's votes went and how. You have to know Jill and Devon were like in every room strategizing on how they did this, because I don't believe that they fell ass backwards into this, right?
Yeah,
Or did they?
so
I
I
don't know.
mean, it feels like it got a little cute on the window side. I mean, I don't want to jump
Yeah.
around too much, but let's talk about the votes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, but by the end of this, Paula reveals to us that Reza voted for Paula. So we know that at
Yeah,
least
and we
one
saw
vote.
that. There was a few
Yeah.
votes we saw, like very few. And
Mhm.
so we did know that Reza was the one vote for Paula.
Right. What were the other votes that we knew for sure?
So the ones we knew for sure that we saw, we see, I wrote it down. So Reza votes for Paula. They showed Wendell voting for Joe. So
Mhm.
yeah, so he definitely was trying to get Joe. And then
Mhm.
Jill voted for Justin. Those were the 3 votes we knew for sure. Because Jill
Right.
spoke into the goat's mouth and said, "I'm sorry, Justin."
Right. So, I mean, that ultimately means that, okay, the way I figure this, and you could catch me if I'm wrong, but if Wendell votes for Joe, he probably has Chef vote along with him, right? So the two
Mhm.
of them are, since they're aligned, they're probably both voting for Joe. We know Reza votes for Paula, who would have been their second guess for who they would want
Right.
out. Joe, Devon, and CJ all probably vote for Tech. At that point, that's 3 votes.
But why
Um,
is CJ voting for Tech? Why isn't CJ
because
voting for
for
either
Paula,
Paula or Joe?
that's a good
Like, that's
question
why
for
I'm
CJ.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, that's why I'm confused, because it's like, if the alliance was solid, even without Joe,
Mhm.
they should have been able to math this,
Yeah.
right?
CJ needs to vote for Paula. She does not.
You
And
should be voting for
I
one
don't.
of the 2 people that you want gone.
Right. I think the
So,
issue is that does CJ want Paula gone, right? Like
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it seemed like they were not really aligned earlier in the season, but based on what we see, I mean, Tech got 4 votes. So, I mean, the
yeah.
only people left, well, we did say Sheffy and we did see Sheffy and well, that's from the below deck fans, that's what we call our chefs. We do see Sheffy's
I was
vote
like,
vote.
I thought maybe you just didn't remember his name.
No, no, no.
It
We
could
do see
just be
Sheffy.
Steffi.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, this is it's a below deck thing. But yeah, we do see Sheffy talking to Jill and Paula at some point. They make a little sandwich in his confessional, which was really bold of them, honestly. And
And
so
on theme for the episode as well, making a
right.
sandwich.
So maybe, just maybe, Sheffy is the one who votes alongside them. Maybe they flip him in this moment to go out their tech. So you get Joe,
Mhm.
Devon, uh, Justin and Sheffy all voting for Tech. Now, why Justin didn't vote for Paula? That's a good question.
Yeah, I again, I'm very confused. I think that, we could get a confessional in the next episode from someone like CJ being like, just because I've been working with this alliance of, like, the guys, like, you know, I think it's important to keep some of the women in the game, and I wasn't gonna vote out, like, if it were a different situation, I might vote out, like, Devon or something like that, but Paula isn't a threat to me, and so I put my vote on Tech. I don't know. Like, there could be we've seen her, do her own thing before. That's kind of how she got into this situation. So, I am just I need more explanation, because I was like, I left this being like, did they just not figure out the math? Because if everyone from the alliance had just voted for one of the 2 people that they wanted to go, this should have been a wrap,
Mhm.
because even with Joe pulled in, they only had 4 numbers against 6. Like,
Yeah, the question is who did Justin vote for and why? Because had Justin voted for Joe, then Joe would get 3 votes there. It would be Wendell, Sheffy, and Justin, or Wendell, CJ, and Justin, whoever. But Justin's vote does not go into the count here, obviously,
I
unless they're the one. There's no way Justin goes home unless Justin doesn't vote for either Paula or Joe.
yeah, because they had to have been a mess, because even if Wendell it was like Wendell and Justin that put the votes on Joe, then
Mm-hmm.
why was and then we know Reza voted Paula, then
For
why was
Paula,
Tech voting for Justin? Like,
yeah, it's a good question.
so at least 2 people from outside of Joe, who we already have established is outside of the main structure,
Mm-hmm.
voted for a person in said structure. I'm
Yeah,
just
I think there's a
baffled.
world where Tech gets wind that he's probably on the block and realizes he needs to vote for Justin to save himself. And
Mm,
honestly, probably the other way around too. Because
yeah.
if Jill, Tech, and Paula all vote for Justin, and then on the other hand, Joe, Davon, Joe, and whoever other 2 vote for Tech, then yeah, I think I think they can make that happen. It's really
Yeah.
interesting that the 2 people whose votes are probably the most questionable in this moment are the 2 people who go home.
Exactly. And my brain is extra foggy this week, so I again I'm struggling to piece it together. I truly hope that in the next episode we get a little bit more of the back, we get like the post double eviction Big Brother edit where we get to see a bit more of the scramble, and we get to see, what how they figured out who was voting for who, and how Devon and Jill and Paula and I guess Joe figured out a way to keep the two of them safe, because I definitely was shocked at this result. I just like mathematically, I was like, yeah, it's a bit difficult when you're not voting for two people. So you have to be a little bit more careful, because like all it takes is two votes in the wrong way to kind of screw things up. Um, I still just can't imagine how this got messed up so bad when you had to imagine Wendell went to the other 5 that he's working with and said, "Listen, guys, 3 of our people are at stake here, and one of them has to go for sure. We need to make sure it's Joe. Joe and Paula are going tonight." To not have either of those 2 go home, have it literally be the other 2, is baffling, which is why I'm like, I know Wendell said, "I'm fine letting go of Joe." We see him write Joe's name down.
Mhm.
What happened?
Yeah, I mean, you were never gonna get Chef to vote for Paula. It was never gonna happen. We know that. Because we saw the sandwich conversation happen. So that's the only
Yeah.
evidence that we have to know that like maybe that worked. We don't even know for
It
sure that
must
it
ha
worked because we don't
well,
see it.
but it's like I had no context before
Right.
that conversation to know that they were close,
They
and he
were,
also
yeah.
didn't promise. They walked
He
out of
didn't
the
say it.
room.
Yeah.
Jason, aka Sheffy, says,
Mhm.
Jill, go put your eyelashes and your bra on, and then turns back to to the producer and says, I
I'm
attract
attracted
mess.
crazy people. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, but he doesn't say, thus, I'm going to save Paula here. We don't actually get that. The only reason we really know that Reza votes for Paula is because one, they show it, and two, because Paula says it. So Paula's
Mhm.
aware that Reza voted wrong. Because you would think in a moment like this, you could be able to come back and be like, no, I didn't vote for you. I voted for Joe.
Yeah.
But Paula already automatically knows who voted for her. So it looks like almost like a masterstroke on Devon's team, for
Right.
pulling this off and getting everybody snowed and thrown in the wrong direction.
That takes us back to, to the early in the episode where I think, let's start from the beginning here and say, I can't believe we are potentially seeing some of Devon's best work
Yes,
on a
challenge
show
beast,
called The Goat. That is
challenge beast,
ridiculous.
strategic mastermind. Look at
Like,
Devon.
she is carrying this team on her effing back at this point. I love to see it, and yeah, this we're going to get our second Devon Goat title in consecutive episodes, right?
Yeah, I believe this is the most challenges Devon has ever won on a
Oh no,
competition
wait,
reality
Wendell
show
was
ever.
last week. Wendell was the one before.
Yeah, there was one in between, but yes,
Okay, yeah.
Devon's first one with the throne competition that really turned the game up was her first win,
Mhm.
and now we have the second one. And again, I think this is Devon's best showing on any reality show ever. Like I've never known Devon to win multiple challenges in one season. No disrespect to Devon at all. I've always said that she's underrated in challenges.
I
But
agree. Yep.
even these challenges are kind of cartoonishly ridiculous. And it's okay because she's stepping up to the plate and she's beating people and winning when she needs to win, and that's really all that matters.
And I think she's focused, where I think that maybe some of these people are leaning a lot more into like the fun campiness, and I think that, I think early on, especially how, conversations with Justin went, how things that he got turned on with her pretty early. She,
Whoa.
losing some allies on weeks where she was not supposed to be losing them. I think she quickly was like, I have to really, really turn it on. But she's already the kind of person that is going to play hard and take it seriously. So, I mean, I would love to see it continue to work out for her, because if she's one of the people truly playing, and has managed to go from a real numbers deficit from last week to a potential 4v4 situation going into this next episode, like, you got to hand it to her. And
Yeah.
I'm living for the Devon and Jill combo. Like, I love the two of them together.
Yeah, what a tag team. Who knew we needed this? And it's so good. But now they're in such a precarious position because I mean their goal was to flip the house. They managed to do that. They managed to get out two of their targets. And
Mhm.
at the same time, here they are now tied up against Wendell and his alliance. And I think with some of these votes going awry, that might have just splintered that group as well. So maybe they have a better
Mhm.
chance moving forward into next week. We shall see.
Yeah. So this episode opens up with a little bit of Joe content, which honestly made me a little nervous that there were so many scenarios where Joe was supposed to leave in this episode. Like it's truly a mystery to me that he made it out of it. And I recall we did our, premiere episode and you asked me who I thought could win. And I called my shot and I said it's gonna be like Joe. And then you said
Mhm.
that was what you thought too. So we got some cute little fun content from Joe. And I'm enjoying him. I'm enjoying him.
Ah, and grocery
Boo.
store in him.
Boo.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has this cute little conversation with the vote goat and he's like just rambling on to the goat. He's talking about like the the winner getting the house and he would sell it and that everyone thought that he looked like Patrick Dempsey when he was dressed like a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
Which I
And,
was like, I could see it. Yeah. He
they
does
even do
have that.
a little gnome kiss on the nose or whatever
Yeah,
they
he
call it,
did.
so I was
Yeah,
like,
the little
"Oh."
nose
Mhm.
rubbing or I don't know, that sounds gross.
Does
Um
it? Like,
I
there are
mean,
filthier things that you can do than rub your noses together.
yeah, no, but it sounds I think like rubbing. I think the word rubbing is actually just giving me the ick today.
Right.
Um
We should come up with a term for the nose, like, the nose
Isn't that
smash,
just like
where it's
nuzzling?
it's
Nuzzling?
I thought nuzzling is more like a shit, I don't know.
Okay, biggest
Nuzzle.
questions is do goats and sheep make the same sound and what is nuzzling? Would you consider what Joe did with the goat to be nuzzling? Cuz I think that that's what feels right to me and I like it a lot
Mm.
better than the word rubbing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just something. There's something there. We'll
There's
workshop it.
something there. Well,
Yeah, people in the comments will tell us. I'm sure they'll
yeah,
let us know.
they will let us know. We can count on them for that. So yeah, this was just like a cute little Joe personality moment to what I said, like, okay. When he
Okay.
didn't go at the end of this episode, is this our potential winner winner edit of Joe? Gotta give him some fun, flirty, content here. Because otherwise I had no idea what this was about. But I wasn't unhappy about it. I find him very charming. I did not watch any of his Bachelor. I was familiar with him from the Bachelor Nation, but I actually never watched either of the either the Bachelorette that he was on or the Bachelor in Paradise he was on.
Yeah.
This is almost like my introduction to him, and I find him nice.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the few people that we haven't gotten a lot. Well, one of the people we haven't gotten a lot from this season. And so I was concerned about Joe going into this episode when his name started coming up so hot. But the other person whose name started coming up in this episode, who we talked about before, who we really haven't got a lot of content from, is Tech.
Mhm.
And the content we get from Tech is what do you expect from Tech on reality shows? Really, it's fun content. He's very goofy. He's a very
He's a
outgoing
light.
personality. He's like, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
he has
he's just
some
joy. Yeah.
yeah, and he's got a lot of tongue action. He's got a lot of like tongue skills. We learned all about that before his exit.
Yeah, and then again, so, I felt like if I'm reading Goat Edgic, I we're getting a little bit from Joe early on, we're getting a little bit of non-game related content from Tech. I felt like we didn't get a ton from Paula. I was like, okay, maybe they successfully get out Joe and it's going to be Tech. So again, I was fully fooled by the edit here. Because when I started to piece together what we were getting, I was like, okay, Tech's been quiet on the show and we're getting a little bit more from him this week. That obviously means he's going. But when we were getting that from Joe too, I thought, okay, Joe's
Mhm.
going. And I felt like we weren't getting that from Paula. And I guess we had already, Justin had been a lot more of a presence on all of the episodes before, so maybe I got fooled by that because they didn't have to, I don't know. It was an interesting way of getting to through this journey, but I'm will say I will miss Tech. Once we started to get more of him, I was like, this is fun. But I also think that he's too pure for this, you know, like we still want there to be a little bit of the mess, and I don't think that was a situation where I could see him like, even when people were dogging him later in this episode, being like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm sorry." Like, he's just too sweet, you know?
The influence Tech has had over my life cannot be understated. You know, I have been a fan of this man since the first time I laid eyes on him on television. I am an OG watcher of The Real World.
Yeah.
A wee lad had no business watching that show. And I vividly remember Tech and Ruthie jumping in the pool naked in Hawaii because they were starting to let people get naked on television. I was like, this is a concept I can get behind. Okay, fine. And so, yeah, people would say I'm like a Tech type. You know, I'm
Is
very
Tech a
light.
7?
Yeah, I don't know, but if he isn't,
Yeah.
he should change. He should try
Yeah.
to change his yeah,
No, I
because
can see it. I
yeah,
can
I
see
mean,
it.
look,
Life of the
eh,
party.
who better than me to be messing up a game where everybody thinks I'm throwing it? I'm just like, what? What are you talking about? What? I'm really bad at the game, y'all. Don't worry. Like that's kind of my brand. So yeah, it was a
Mm.
tough episode. Tech stands out there.
Yeah, and one of the Tech stands we find out in this episode is Wendell, and we
Hey,
get a nice little confessional from Wendell later in this episode where he basically says like, I'm, you know, I'm having a super fan moment playing alongside Tech, who I've watched on TV for a long time, and I love this guy, like I'm a huge fan. And so again, you got to think that Wendell was gonna go hard to try to keep his guy here. It's like, Wendell, what happened?
yeah.
So it was nice to see you know, Wendell giving Tech his flowers, and you know, being like, because in the first episode they edited Wendell to be like, this is the big on campus like survivor guy here, he's dropping all the survivor references, like he thinks that he's like big shot over here. I like that this was like almost like a humbling thing for him to be like, hey, like I bow down to you, like I I'm a fan of you.
Yeah, but it must be tough to find like to meet one of your idols or your, you know, your faves and then find out that they're really bad at the game, you know, because it's like I liked you for being on reality TV and for being on the real world specifically. And this is a competition in a way that the real world is not, you know. And so yeah, Wendell's looking around, he's like, dang, Tech, you're not very good at this. I have to figure out a way to carry you through this. And in this episode, it just showed that, you know, that slingshot really was the nail in the coffin for my guy
Oh my
Tech
god.
here. And I like if I'm Wendell, I'm like, do I go out on a limb to save Tech? You know, like I'm going to save me, obviously, and I'm going to try to keep my team together. But maybe Tech at that point is kind of expendable because I mean, I just need an explanation about the slingshot thing. We got to talk about it later on.
Yeah, yeah. So before we're gonna get to that, we obviously have to find out who our goat of the week is going to be. We get Tosh showing up as he does each day, and this is where he's gonna reveal the big twist of the week, and that you know, we're doing cooking show week, but at the end, two of you are going to be chopped. It's a double elimination, and the top two vote getters are going to be evicted from Goat Manor. And
Jenny,
so
are you a cooking show girly? Are you one of the? Do you get down with the chops
Uh,
of the world?
okay, so I have watched, a few episodes, or not a few episodes, a few seasons or most of seasons of Top Chef when Phil
Mhm.
binging a bunch, like
Oh yeah, I remember that Phil's run on Top Chef.
yeah, so he like so I've watched enough Top Chef to be familiar enough with that, but aside from that, I don't think I've really watched any of the other, food competition shows. Like, except
Yeah.
for I've actually watched, and I don't, this doesn't really count, but like I've watched like a lot of Beat Bobby Flay, because Food
Yes.
Network is always on at my mom's when I go to visit. Like, I think that is just like one of the go-to channels. That's her comfort channel. And I swear to
Mhm.
God, like every time I'm there, there's like a 12-hour marathon of Beat Bobby Flay. So I've watched a lot of that. It's technically a competition,
Mhm.
but not like in the same way that you're Chopped or you're Top Chef, or I don't know what are the other. I know that, well, we got reference to the Great
British
British
baking show
Baking
or the
Show. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we got Bake Off, we got Top Chef. One of my other little niche fandoms that I was a part of. I was a
You got a
cooking show
lot.
guy
You
for
got
a
a
while.
lot.
Look, reality TV is my thing, and so you
I
start talking
know.
about like
That's
the
why I said
different
you're the
brands.
GOAT. You're
Hey,
the
stop it!
GOAT of
Stop
reality
it!
TV
Stop it!
podcasting.
Stop it!
I'm sorry,
Stop it!
you've got the breadth. Like,
No, I do have the breath. I do,
yeah,
but stop! 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 Listen.
I will not.
Okay, so I watched a little Top Chef. I remember when Phil was going through his little Top Chef watch, and
Yeah.
I was waiting on him to get to certain moments because screw you, Mike Isabella. But also,
Yes.
yeah, I'm a big Top Chef guy. Always, I had been through like at least the first 10, 12 seasons or so. Recently, I've fallen off because there's way too much
Mhm.
Top Chef to keep up with. But yeah, Top
Is
Chef,
it 'cause
Matt.
Padma's gone?
Oh, yeah, when I was
Padma goes and you're like, "I'm out."
yeah, Padma's gone. I'm never coming back ever because I love that woman and everyone
Yeah.
should. But
Yes.
yeah, I was a Top Chef fan in the early days. Shout out to Carla Hall, wherever she is, because I love her too.
Yes.
Tiffany
Yes.
Derry, Stan, Mother, Queen, all that good stuff. Yeah, but also Master Chef on the Fox Network. I
Oh,
think had
yes.
my Master Chef, Hell's Kitchen, of course, with Gordon Ramsay.
Right.
I've watched a lot of Chopped, a lot of even recently Pressure Cooker on Netflix, like, so you kind of get a feel for these reality shows, like these cooking shows. But I think the one thing you're supposed to take from this is that the thing about Top Chef and all these other shows is that no matter what the format is, the key to cooking shows is knowing that it will change in the middle of an episode. It will change in the middle of a season. We're used to doing it one way. Today, we're gonna throw something at you. We're gonna make you cook food with only your feet or something like that, and they do that all the time. And so that's
Yeah.
Tasha's point coming into this is like, hey, there's going to be a format change. Why? Because it wouldn't be a cooking show if people weren't running around frantically trying to adapt to whatever crazy situation we threw them in. And now the format change is that not only is there a double elimination, but there's a random ass spelling bee where you're making risotto.
Yeah, and so in that sense, I understand thematically what we're doing here. I would still love to know if there were ever anything about bees on these
No,
cooking shows.
no, no. This is made up. This
They
is
they were
shenanigans.
high when they came up with this one. They're like, "I don't know, man. We got like a fucking bee costume. We could do a spelling bee, and they have to
Look.
stir the risotto." Like, what?
The shenanigans are running
Yeah.
amok. They're running
yes,
amok.
they were certainly running amok spiritually.
Mhm.
Yeah, so um we've got Tosh in the bee costume, and not for the spelling bee, it's for the goat the goat challenge, where
Mhm.
it's going to be
I mean, do you
so
wanna
this
talk about the spelling bee a little bit?
oh yeah, we should talk about the spelling bee. Sorry. So while we're in bee costume, wait. Oh yeah, so the bee was after the spelling
Pre-bee
bee.
costume, yes.
Oh my
The bee
gosh.
and the spelling bee are
See?
unrelated.
And this would be so much easier to keep track of if it made any sense. Like, truly, I'm like, when did this happen? Okay. So what was he wearing? I think he was just dressed as oh no, this is when he was dressed as Noel from the Great British Baking Show. I
Yes.
was for a second I was like, because I'm not familiar with the Great British Baking Show, but when I saw him in a wig, like a little bob, I was like, um, who is it? Is it Barefoot Contessa? And again,
Yes!
this is not
Not Eden
but then I'm like,
Garden.
her hair's not black like that, but I felt like it was like the right like bob look, and then I was like, but she doesn't do a challenge show. She's just chefing. Anyway.
Yeah, no. Ina Garden is an icon wherever she is. She's somewhere drunk
Yes.
right now. Queen, mother, get
I
into it.
love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah,
In
but
her little
no, this is
denim
no
shirt.
Yeah, this is Noel from the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was dressed like him. And it was a good outfit, honestly.
Yeah, because we got the side by side to show like they purposely said like we did a good job here.
No,
And I
it's
was like,
not. It's decent. It really is
yeah.
decent.
It was one of
He's wearing that.
his better costumes.
Yeah, he's wearing that Knuff sweatshirt as well. So it was. I saw him hosting it but that's the only thing that had anything to do with Bake Off, right? Like it's like they don't even have risotto on Bake Off. I don't think that's ever happened. It's the whole point is that it's a baking show. It's not
Yeah.
a
You
cooking
don't
show.
bake risotto.
Right, exactly. If they wanted to really give a shout out to risotto, you go to Hell's Kitchen because that is a hallmark of that show. Gordon Ramsay had spent the greater time of his life yelling about risotto, and for some reason, people still go on that show and can't make it.
I feel like, it's risotto has made a name for itself in being a very difficult, item to cook, because even outside of Hell's Kitchen, I feel like on Top Chef there's been a lot of risotto moments. I would be terrified to cook risotto in my own kitchen, just because the pressure, the immensity of of what it takes to cook risotto. But yeah, you're right, you don't bake risotto. I don't know, this is also disjointed. But yes, we're doing the yelling bee. And so we're spelling and yelling common culinary terms, but you have to stir the pot of risotto the whole time. And I would not say that some of these were common culinary terms, and some of these were some of these words were much easier than others. Like we had like dice.
Okay, but how? Okay, so wait, which words were not common culinary terms? Because I thought they were all pretty spot on for things that you cook or cook with.
Okay, but like some of them are, yeah, some of them were just food, and some of them were like things you do with like dice. Okay, so you're dicing like a vegetable or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had like dollop,
Yes.
poach, yeah, like I
Yes.
guess, but
See?
I just felt like the breadth of words was so, like the first word that we see is Jill comes up first, and the first word is lobster.
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, we're going easy. We're going
Yeah.
easy here."
The second word is crush, Jenny. Like how does it get any easier than crush? Then they give you dice, a four-letter word.
Four-letter word.
Yeah.
Like,
I
but then I thought like, okay, again, and I don't have a lot of skills, Chappelle. I have very few
Mhm.
skills. Word games and spelling are one of my stronger areas. So I might be coming at this too hard. And again, I'm seeing the words on the screen, so of course I can be like, I could spell that. Um, but I was aghast at this because I was like, how? How are these the words? But we get the very typical, like, these are like whatever list celebrities, like we don't know how to spell. Poor Paula, who, like, English is her not her first language. She's
Mhm.
saying, I might not even know what some of these words are, let alone how to spell them in English. So the fact that she gets yolk, which for a four-letter word, I could see that at least being one of the harder. I would say for four-letter words, yolk is a lot harder than dice, right?
I think it's a game of inches. I don't think it's much harder. Like,
Because the
like
L isn't really doing, the L's kind of like silent in yolk, where dice is like pretty much what you would expect, and you've
no,
probably seen that
because
word.
the C is making the soft C sound like an S. That could have been touch and go
I
for Paula.
I guess I'm
Because dice is
saying
you
that
say in Spanish.
you say, I guess so. I'm just saying that Paula did good because I think that yoke, which she got, was harder than dice that CJ
Mm.
got, which again, she got it at least. But I'm like, I just feel, within the round one, um,
Within the single Jeopardy round, the
yeah,
questions that I
I
can get
don't,
right, I feel
because
like
I felt bad for tech, because I would say when you can't see, like, if you're a visual person like me and you have to like think, like, shut your eyes, visualize the word being written, and if it's not a word you see written very often, it's maybe not a word you use very often. I would say tech probably got the hardest one of the round with dollop.
I
'Cause
don't know.
he spells it DOLLUP, not DOLLOP, which I think is a pretty fair screw up. because I don't think that people are saying or writing dollop as much as some of these other words.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. However, here's
This
my
is your guy.
counterpoint.
I'm defending him.
Yeah, and I am not. Here's my counterpoint. I think at damn near 50 years old, I cannot give you a pass for misspelling dollop.
See,
I
I
think
think that the later you get, it's harder because it's not being hammered into your head as much, and maybe you're not reading as like much as you were
you're
when you were
not
younger.
in your younger culinary classes or something. Like, look,
Yeah.
I just feel like after a while, there's some of these that you should be able to figure out. And I feel like he got sloppy. I feel like it's an easy mistake to make, like you said. O and U, depending on how you pronounce it, it can really throw you off. But again, these are the sight words for children at home that are in elementary school. I will not quibble with the first round words. Like, yeah, grocery store Joe misspelled hummus. A lot of people don't even eat hummus, so they might not have ever even written the word down. Like, it's not like hummus is the most popular food ever, but he also works at a grocery store. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I
Tosh
cannot.
roasted him,
Yeah,
like, effectively by being like, "You've probably seen this written a million times in your life."
right. So yeah, these are all common culinary terms, but they're also words that any child within probably like the first like 8 or 9 grades has probably seen. At
Yes.
least once. So yeah, being 48-year-old, no disrespect to my goat Tech, I love him to death, but again, if it's the second round, I'll fight for you, but in round 1, Tech, you just slipped up. I think you
I
just
mean,
slipped
I
up.
don't think that any of them should have been eliminated in the first round because of how
Right.
easy these words were, but I just think of the words that were given in round 1, that is the one I feel like the most forgiving about. But
Yeah.
we lose 3 people in this. Joe misspells hummus, so Tech misspells dollop, and then Justin, aka Alyssa Edwards, Cella Larry?
Celery. She got distracted. She's like, canary, celery, same thing. I don't know. Put them together. Let's see what
It's
happens.
it's the stopping that gets you, right? Because it's like if you take too long of a pause to
You
think
forget where you
about
are.
it, you forget where
Mhm.
you are, and that's clearly what happened with the celery.
Yeah.
The Cella though.
Celery.
Yeah. But, like, they gave Jason dinner? Dinner? Are
Okay.
you
I
effing
mean,
kidding?
Jason is a chef. None of these words should have been hard for Jason at all.
He
None of
should
them.
have
Not one.
won.
He should
He
have
should
won.
have won.
Now, just because you cook something all the time doesn't mean you write something all the time. But I'd
But
have
you've
to assume
probably
that he's
read
read some
ingredients and
recipes. Right.
recipes. Yeah.
Right.
Like, that
This was his
would
challenge
be
to win.
the yeah. And we get down to I think round 4, which gets down to Jason, Jill, and Devon, and we think, okay. And we hear Reza does not want Day to win. We're hearing a lot of like anti-Devon sentiments coming from Reza through this episode, which I think is like building to what we will eventually see. I will say the words are getting harder. You know,
Mhm.
Kabasa could be hard.
Yeah, of all the words
Pasteurize
that I would
that
have gotten
the E
wrong,
before the U, like I can
yeah,
see, you know,
yeah, of all the words I would have gotten wrong, the word that I probably could have gotten wrong the most is kielbasa. Like, don't get me wrong, I can spell kielbasa, but in the moment,
yeah.
stirring risotto under those hot lights, I might have messed that up. So I don't really like. That's the one I'm the most forgiving about, I guess, because I don't think I've ever written the word kielbasa on a piece of paper. Like, I've never written it
Yeah.
down. I don't think I've ever used it this much in one conversation either. Now,
I
I'm
think
not a
I'd be
sausage
okay with
guy.
that one. I think that if any of them I was maybe gonna get wrong, it might have been pasteurized.
Mm,
I know that there's the E and the U. I could see if I'm not able to visualize it, maybe doing the U before the E and screwing
yeah,
it up there. Because I get so fixated on like there's an E and a U, and then I screw up the order, maybe.
yeah.
But we get Jason eliminated on quesadilla.
Which is a word that I could spell in my sleep backwards because I've eaten more quesadillas than anybody in the world, probably. Like, I'm pretty sure you could put me up next to like the top
Top
Mexican
quesadilla
spelling
eater.
bees. Yeah. Well, like, you could put me in a literal Spanish spelling bee with a bunch of like people from Mexico, and I would probably still like rank in the top 5. Like, me and
The
quesadillas go
goat
way
of
back.
quesadillas.
Exactly.
And So he's spelling it as if he's spelling queso. He does like queso. Yeah.
Quesadilla.
Yeah,
Hmm.
quesodilla. So Jason gets eliminated. It's down to Jill and Devon, and we're all cheering because we're like, we win. This is great.
Should we be more forgiving about uh Chef Jason misspelling quesadilla, as it is also not an English word? So the same way we were
Mm,
like, oh well, maybe Paula, being that English is not her first
no,
language,
we're
Jason's
not.
first language is not Spanish. So
Quesadilla is on
quesadilla.
every white ass menu in the world, okay? I live in Canada and you can't go into any family restaurant and there not be a quesadilla on the menu.
Oh, okay, but hear me out. Quesadilla, right? Even if you tried to sound it out,
Yeah,
first letter out the gate, Q. Boom. Okay, this is a
big
Spanish word.
mistake.
That big mistake, right? The word is quesadilla spelled with a Q. Why? The letter K is right there. So I can see where you missed that. Then when you get to the dia part, okay, when you get to the dia part, the double L's being a Y sound, like as an American speaking English, I could see where this could go awry for someone who's not familiar with Spanish. Now, now to your point, this is the most English Spanish word that ever existed. This is more English than the word no in Spanish. It is literally everywhere that there's ever been any restaurant ever.
It's
So,
written you've
yeah,
any person in North America has seen this written a million times in their life just by virtue of looking at a menu,
yeah,
unless you don't go to restaurants at all. So while I appreciate the thought experiment of defending this, there's absolutely no way that this is as hard as it is for Paula, where she is spelling words in a language that is not her first language.
right,
When those
right.
words are maybe not, especially because, like, she's not using some of these words in everyday speech, whereas Jason is the chef.
Right, he is the chef. Yes. Again,
Yeah.
I just tried to throw a
We
little
gotta be
extra like his
fair.
way. We got to be fair
Yes.
to everybody.
Yes.
At least,
We're
Devon did
unbiased over here on Hit or Quit, you know?
Devon did effortlessly spell enchilada, which is also a Spanish word, and then she finishes it up with ceviche. Is Devon bilingual? Is that what's
Uh,
going on?
I think that she just enjoys good food, because, when I heard ceviche, I got excited. I was like, "Oh, it's a wrap." No problem. Is
Yeah,
ceviche like, I guess if you're not seeing it on menus or not ordering it, then that would be one that you would stumble on easier, but for
yeah,
me, it felt like one of the easier ones. Like, I think I would screw up zucchini before I would screw up ceviche because of the, like, is it a double C? Is it a double N? You know what I mean? Like, I could see
right. Dude,
the
what if you've
zucchini
never
getting a
seen the
little
word
confusing.
though? Like if you've never seen the word ceviche, let's just say like you've heard
Yeah,
people talk about it on restaurants and stuff like that, like on like TV shows.
you're going
I think
S
that's a tough
first.
one. Yeah, you're going
Yeah,
S
yeah.
first. I don't even know what you're gonna do at the Che part. You might do a ghetto CHAY like Che. Like you might so I don't know what happens there.
Yeah,
But
it does get messy.
Devon got super happy when she heard ceviche. She's like, my mama would never forgive me. So maybe her
Yeah.
mom's like a chef or really likes
Or
ceviche.
they
Uh,
maybe she just really loves ceviche, and
ceviche
you know
ass
what?
family, yeah.
I'm glad that her mom led her in the right direction and that she gets this because I worry about Devon if this hadn't gone her way because immediately after winning and celebrating, we get a confessional of Reza saying that she's the evil warlord of the house.
Yeah.
Reza, are you okay?
Yeah, they are not fans of Devon. But listen, the final two in that competition was Devon and Jill. So even if Devon manages to screw that up, I think her and Jill go to like a spell off at that point, right? Or something like
Yeah,
that. And maybe Jill wins it.
but and as much as, like, one of the two of them being the GOAT is great because then both of them can't go home, if the teams get built the same way, which again, if Jill is the GOAT, maybe she doesn't build the teams the same way. Obviously, like, butterfly effect, one minor thing, the whole situation's different. But I worry about Davon's position if she ends up on that same team that loses and she's not safe. I think there's a
Yeah.
totally different outcome of this episode. So thank God that Devon is in her Comp Beast era here on the GOAT, because she pulls it out, and she's gonna get to pick these teams.
What did you think about the team selection? Because last
Mhm,
episode, we talked through what the optimal strategy for the women to flip this game on its head. And we were
mhm,
like, Devon has to come in throwing this competition just like she did the first one, right? She would just stack it and then just make sure they lose so that they can just like have their pick of the men that they want to go home. And
yeah.
instead, she actually chooses to try to win the competition, but leave Wendell and Reza out of the winning team and then just go after them straight up. How did you think? What did you think about that decision?
So it's hard to say, because I think in this situation where she's safe no matter what, like, um she should just want to lose. But I think that if she really wants Wendell gone specifically, she might be thinking, how do I have Wendell on my team and also throw? Which made me confused on why she was, as she said, trying to pick the strongest team to win, but doesn't put Wendell on her team. Because I don't think her picks were bad. I don't like, I think that but I think that, especially, did they know about the slingshot thing at this
Yeah,
point?
they were already informed of
They
how the
knew what
game
they were
went
doing.
before
Yeah.
exactly, and so,
I
yeah,
just
so she
thought
picked.
maybe
Mhm,
she just got a little too, like, I think she's maybe was trying too hard to get the optimal, like, situation where she's like, if 2 guys are gonna go, I want it to be Wendell and Reza, so
mhm.
I'm putting them on the other team. Um, but really what I think she should have done is put both of them on her team, because I don't think Reza's very good at these challenges. He does kinda seem like he's all over the place. I think he's like, he gets, like, flustered and, like, annoyed with people really easily.
Mhm,
And so, but I just think, like, you see this slingshot thing, and I'm like, they do this shit in Survivor all the freaking time. Like,
mhm.
I think that you pick Wendell here, and instead of having him on the other team, because especially if you're looking at, if our team loses, there's only 4 people up, and the chances of getting rid of those 2 people get even better because she
Yeah,
can't go.
yeah,
The
we called it.
math
We
gets better. Yeah.
Last week we said Devon should just get all the guys on one team and just throw it, she
Mhm.
becomes the slingshot person and just stands there. Kill a
Yeah.
minute. It's not that
Now,
hard.
I think in this scenario, she did need to make sure that she had 2 guys that would be expendable on her team in case she wasn't able to successfully throw it.
But
So,
I don't see a world where you can't successfully throw this. I mean, I like,
yeah.
like, and then what guys at this point, as long as she doesn't pick Joe, anybody else can get it. They can go. Like
Yeah.
You put Wendell, Tech, and Reza on the same team. Reza's probably gone and Tech's probably gone. Wendell probably survives that one. Well, whoop-de-doo, he was gonna survive regardless.
Yeah.
You put Wendell, Justin, and Reza on the team. Justin's probably gone, Reza's probably gone.
Yeah.
You just
'Cause
load the team up.
yeah, especially in this scenario where she knows 2 are going, and she could load the team up with guys and herself and know that she's safe and guys are guaranteed to go. Like,
Mhm.
that did seem, of all the times to not throw,
Yeah. This
um,
this is the
I
one.
yeah,
How
so,
however,
yeah,
here's where I try to put myself in the mind of what Devon was actually thinking here, right?
okay.
So I think that last throw left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouth. Like I think they were
Yeah.
not happy with it. It was nasty. I think that
She
people did not
realized
like
the
the gameplay.
perception.
Right.
Mhm.
And if she did it again, I could see the house turning against her. Like she's some like
Yeah.
crazy. They were already calling her a warlord or whatever. So
Yeah.
I could see them being like, we don't like the way she's playing, and it's shifting because
Yeah.
we saw a lot of people want the opportunity to compete. They want to be able to play the game, and by taking away the opportunity to play the game, that could be something that puts a target on her back in the future. And so she
Mhm.
figured, whatever, we'll put 2 guys on this team, whichever 2 guys that we can get, that I think we can win the best with, and we'll just try to beat them outright. And then that way, we can get rid of whoever isn't on the team. But it was a risky play. I don't think it's the optimal move at all.
And I think that if she, wasn't comfortable purposely throwing and, just wanted to set up the teams so that they would have a crack at getting rid of some of the guys she wanted to get rid of, why not put, if Reza and Wendell were the two that she wanted out the most, why not put them on, I guess, like, because that's why I think she wanted everything she wanted, and it was only going to happen under a scenario where they're both on the same team and they'd lose. Whereas I think that if you have one of them on each team, no matter how things shake out, you can try to make sure one of them goes home. Whereas then she ended up in a scenario where, the fact that it still worked out in their favor is amazing to me. But she could have maybe gotten Reza or Wendell out if she had separated them here and one of them was actually up for elimination.
Yeah, but I think they're less powerful now than they ever could have been. Like getting one of
They
them out
definitely
and
are,
leaving.
yeah.
Yeah, getting one of them out still leaves Wendell with the majority if he's the one who stays, and vice versa with Reza. Where you need two guys out right now. I don't know how they pull off the vote, and I think that's why we're so stunned by this choice, because it shouldn't have worked. The moment Devon loses this challenge, we're like, well, your goose is cooked. You might lose Joe here, but you're definitely losing a woman out of this alliance. And when you look up and no, you're actually not. You're like, oh wow, that's crazy. How did you manage to pull that off? Because I think Devon really did try to pick the best team for her. She's like, Joe played football. Like she's thinking along the lines of who could be good at this. I just don't think she
why
ever
don't you
saw
pick
work
Wendell? Like, if you're
because
trying
she
to
wants him
win,
gone. She wants him gone. Like Wendell being around is probably like that's her biggest target. Reza is like target B. Wendell's target A. If anybody's not going to be on her team, it's Wendell.
I just think that, especially if you want to, fight against any speculation that you are throwing, truly picking the team that you can argue as being like the strongest competitors, you have to maybe say, listen, I do want Wendell gone, but I think it's going to be too hard to accomplish this week. I'll put him on my team, and then if I lose, then I have a good chance of getting rid of him. Because again, if you're down to only 4 people up for elimination and Wendell's one of those 4 people, the chances of getting rid of him are actually better than they were when he's on the losing team of 5. And that's why I think if she wanted to play fair and win and try to win, stack your team and put Wendell on it and say,
And try to
listen, I
get rid of
might not be
Reza.
able to get him out, but hey, if I don't win, I can get him out. I can really, really try, and that's my best shot.
But if she only gets out Wendell and one of the girls go home, she's still in the minority. They needed to flip. They needed to get 2 guys out no matter what. And having Wendell on her team is not going to allow her to do that. She needs him on the other side.
What if she kept like Paula on her teams and it like wasn't all guys, and she just swaps out like Tech for Wendell? Like literally one, and I mean, knowing how this challenge ends up going, that would have been incredible for her. And then she could still, same situation,
Yeah.
and just hope that Jill is safe. I don't know.
I mean, those are all good scenarios. I think for as far as you and I are concerned, talking it through. I think maybe she thinks that she has like a Tech, maybe like she could work with Tech in the future. I think she's identified that she cannot work with Wendell, and so like the last person who will be on her team is Wendell. But I do think that we've already identified, and we talked about it last week. She should be throwing. She should be coming in here, stacking her team with all the guys, and then getting up there with the slingshot and just standing there like a crazy person for 3 minutes.
Which sucks because we're now seeing, like we saw how, like you said, how the throwing got taken by people, and we get into the situation here where Tech is not throwing, and everyone or numerous people think he's throwing because of how bad he is at the slingshot. So this is the challenge where, one person slingshotting food items into people that have created a giant picnic basket. It's basically it was a strange challenge. And orange team goes first, which is a disadvantage, you would think, because you can learn from watching the other team and their struggles. You can watch the technique, the putting the tech and
Technique.
technique, yeah.
Mhm.
Except for it's the Wendell Neek, I guess, because he went first. Um, and so really you're like, if you're Davon's team, you're at such an advantage here because you've watched this other team go through it already. And you think, hey, Tech's been on a bunch of seasons of the challenge. He should know what he's doing. He's good. He's giving it his all in all of these challenges. He can handle a slingshot. And it went poorly. And I am shocked that the time difference in this loss was not worse than it was, because they really made it look like he was just completely like dropping tomatoes, like boo tomato tomato, and that was just him dropping the tomatoes onto the ground trying to get them to the slingshot, which seemed like it was forever.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do to convince these people that he wasn't throwing the challenge. There's literally nothing you could do. It just they're heckling him while it's happening, and Wendell is on the sidelines like, why are they talking to him like that? Because it's
Yeah.
like with every time he grabs a tomato to shoot one and it fails, they're like, come on, boo, you suck. Oh my god, like bro, we see you
We've
throwing it. Like they're not even,
lost.
yeah, they're not even hiding it. Like they're like, oh, I think he's trying to
No.
throw it. We see you throwing it. And so it's like, I kind of get the feeling that they think I'm throwing this one. That's crazy. Why would they think that?
He's too pure, is what I'm saying. He
Welcome
was
to my life.
placing he was placing those tomatoes into the slingshot like they were greased up in oil. Like it was like they were covered in like an olive oil and balsamic
Mm.
glaze and just ready for some basil on them, and maybe like a nice like mozz. Oh my god, I'm hungry.
I'm about to say, where did we go with this? Where'd you go? Come back.
I went to a place of wanting wanting to eat right now. And I want Chef Jason to create it because we know what he's doing. It literally just felt like Butterfingers. Like I don't know how he was. These tomatoes were just slippery. Now, was there a disadvantage to going second in that the ground was covered in the remnants of the previous
The
team's
mustard.
challenge? There was tomato guts, and every time someone slingshot a head of lettuce, it was like it exploded, like lettuce everywhere. Like people were only catching one leaf by the time this head of lettuce reached its way over to the picnic basket because it was just completely scattered everywhere.
Right, that's a good point. I think that's a good point. Yeah, sometimes we see that the challenge will hinder the other challenges after it because there's such a mess, and it'll
Yeah.
make it much more difficult. You know, your dexterity's off a little bit when you don't have as much grip on whatever you're slingshotting. So I could see that for sure. But Tech never
What if
stepped
you
up to the learning curve. He never figured it
well,
out, and I think that's what did him in.
yeah, that's the thing. Like I would defend it a little bit more if we had seen them struggle in any other way except for him with the slingshot.
Mm.
Cuz I was like, "Oh, what if you're slipping on some tomato guts? It's like slipping on a banana peel, but it's like tomato guts on grass." But no, it really just seemed to come down to his struggles with the slingshot, and you just see how people perceive any idea of throwing, and we've got Devon clutching her pearls now being like, he's throwing. It's like
He's he's throwing it to save Wendell. And it's
yeah.
like, I mean, I'm sure Tech would love for people to think he's that strategic, but he's like, no, I mean, why would I risk myself for Wendell? I like the guy, but throwing it so that I would be in danger. I mean, and again, in there is a world where that would absolutely work because you have the numbers. So
Yeah.
throwing it to save Wendell would actually be the move if for some reason this alliance could get on the right page and just get rid of Joe and Paula like they're supposed to. Um,
Yeah.
it's crazy to me that they weren't able to pull this off.
I know. I'm talking through this episode has not gotten like me to
No,
a place of understanding any further. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me, and I truly just wonder whether Wendell just got so fixated on making sure that Joe would
Joe
go
was the
that
one. Mhm.
they they tried to do too much.
No, because it still doesn't understand the Justin votes. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah, I think
it
this is the
doesn't.
okay, here's the problem is Wendell is playing the game in a way where he expects people to be playing like him, like it's Survivor, and we could have potential of people voting in a way where they're like, I just I just feel like it's their time to go." Or like,
Shut
can you imagine people voting? Can you imagine like Justin voting for Tech being like, like,
He
I
did so
love Tech.
poorly in
He's
the
in my
challenge.
alliance, but he really screwed up the
He
slingshot
really screwed up
today.
that challenge. Oh my god! And I think he might have threw it, and I just can't respect that kind of gameplay. Like
Exactly, right?
what? Okay, should I
He
text
put us
Wendell
at
and just be
risk.
like, yeah, should I text Wendell and just be like, how the hell did that happen?
I mean, I would love to know, but I also don't wanna be spoiled if it's going to be explained to us in some way. Like, I am truly, again, hoping for answers in this next episode on what the hell happened here. Because, we can fast forward back to where we started with the vote. It was kind of awkward. After 9 votes, we've got enough for Tech to go. He's got 4. He leaves before they're even done the other votes. So he's the first person gone. He says his goodbyes and again went out like an absolute like just a gem of a person. It was fun. He had a bad day. It happens. Party don't stop. Like, just a joyous presence. Leaves, and then Tosh is like, "Okay, we still have another vote." It's like back to business.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna get the final vote for Justin that gives him 3 to send Justin out. And again, glorious, joyous goodbye. Are we done with the messy, dramatic goodbyes? Like, did that die with Kristen?
No, I don't know. I think if you can insert some more drama into the show, because again, Justin, as far as I'm concerned, Justin and Tech voted themselves out of the game. They
Right.
voted
Because they
themselves out of the
had
game.
to vote for each other, right?
They both voted
Maybe
incorrectly. Yes,
maybe
maybe
one
Tech.
of them voted for Joe, maybe.
Right, maybe, but we don't know that. And so who could they possibly be mad at?
Yeah.
Like you had the opportunity to vote for Paula and you did not. That is a fact.
Yeah.
Had y'all voted for Paula, she would be gone. You did not do that. So you
Yeah.
have orchestrated your own exit. How that happened, I am shocked. I don't know. But yeah, why would they be dramatic? Who are they mad at? You did it to yourself.
Yeah.
I am very sad to see Alyssa Edwards go. For one, we only
It's
got Alyssa Edwards, the character, for one episode during the cooking challenge, cooking
right.
slash spelling bee challenge.
Yeah, she had, like, the little chef hat on, and then she was out almost immediately, so we didn't even really get much Alyssa Edwards content in the episode as
Yeah,
well. So,
but
Rob.
give us more drag queens on other TV shows. Like I said, I'm new to the Drag Race show. I've only seen a couple seasons of that. It's not something that I'm fairly familiar with, but I see the drag queens showing up on other TV shows. We saw Peppermint on The Traders, and now
Yep.
we see Alyssa Edwards here. Let them play. This is fun. We get some drama. The only drama we even got this season is because of Alyssa Edwards going off on was it
Well, on
CJ at
Kristen.
first? Oh,
No,
Kristen. Yeah, on Kristen.
Kristen
Yeah.
said that the only
Yeah.
thing she loves is the bottle.
Right.
Um,
That's all the
and
drama we've gotten.
the drama between her and Devon with
Mhm.
the like you're playing too hard, like you have to talk to people like
Uh-huh.
they're people. So like that early conflict was also like that would not have happened
If not
without
for Alyssa
Alyssa
Edwards.
Edwards either.
Yeah.
So I do feel like near the end the sentimentality of it all kind of like, and the conflict was dying down. And as I'm talking through this, I'm realizing although CJ says that all of the fun people are being taken out and she does like a blurred out hand job motion that was supposed to be
Mhm.
like a ringing of the joy.
And
Um
not a hand job. Definitely not a hand
Not a
job.
hand job. I do still think that we have some messy people that I can see blowing some shit up on their way out. I'm looking at you, Reza.
Still looking at you, Reza. I mean, hold it down. Hold it down, Reza. And also, Jill, I'm familiar with your work. Don't play.
Yeah.
and
I
Devon even. You know, we
Well,
got
that's the
some
thing
heavy
is,
hitters.
yeah, like Devon, especially like if she's been safe the 2 of the 3 last episodes, since she's gotten herself into some trouble. So, um, and I think and she was on the winning team, so she really hasn't been vulnerable in a while.
Mhm.
So I think that we could see her start freaking out, and getting messy if she's at risk and she has to like go hard. Um to protect herself. So I do think that there is still plenty of mess left, but and also I think that Joe has the ability to be a schemy little guy, you know?
Schemy little biatch.
Don't
Yeah.
you think? I feel like
Uh,
he's giving me a little bit of hope in that like he recognized that he was like the bottom and he's not afraid to jump ship. Like
yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it was hard to recognize it. I think the way they're treating Joe in this episode is kind of like, yeah, if he can't see he's on the bottom,
mhm.
he deserves to go. But yeah, we got some potential here. I think we do.
I
I'm
just think
most
that
concerned about what's up.
I was just gonna say, I just think that like the Bachelor franchise type people, there are so many other guys that you could have on this cast that would just be like, no, I'm sticking with my crew, sticking with my guys, and just like being so like zeroed in on like one way of doing it. And I really feel like Joe is a lot more like flexible, and he's like a little bit more of like a schmoozer, a wheeler and a dealer, you know.
I,
Um,
yeah,
so
I
that
don't
gives me
know.
some.
I mean, the Bachelor franchise has been showing up lately. CJ has jumped ship. We see that Joe is willing to play the game, and then let's not forget about the traitors. Pilot Pete was doing the things, and so I don't know. Maybe we should be going back to the Bachelor franchise for more of these people.
Yeah, and I'd rather them come on to shows like this than on to Special Forces: World's Toughest Test, where I think the Bachelor franchise has really showed up and showed out in the 2 seasons. The confusing fact of there being 2 seasons of that already.
Nope.
So again, I want more. If we can get the right people, more Bachelor people on these shows too. Like give them a chance. Well,
Yeah, let's see about
Tasha
it.
would have been so good if like there's a scenario where if Tasha doesn't go when she went, like I think that she would have been really, really fun and really playing hard. I mean,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
playing hard. That's kind of what got her in this.
It is.
So
I don't know. This has been good. This has been good.
yeah.
I am worried about Devon moving forward because
Yep.
I mean, being a two-time GOAT and not being vulnerable most of the game, I think at some point people are gonna start to turn their sights on you. And even with the house split down the middle, it might be tempting for some of the women to even jump ship on that alliance and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, now that we have the chance, let's go ahead and get her." So we shall see.
Yeah. And in the preview for the next episode, we see Reza's gunning for Devon. This is nothing new. We see that Jill and Devon are going to be plotting during some sort of pool party, and what worries me, that what you're alluding to here, is like there's a conversation shown between Joe and Paula stating that the teams are now 4v4, and it makes me wonder if, well, now things are too safe. You know what I mean? Like now Davon could have too much power. And could that be what happens here, is like, okay, well, getting, the numbers have become too even. And I do worry about her position going forward. But maybe like we are in our Davon comp beast era, and she could just keep winning the goat. More spelling bees if if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's basically where we leave off. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else that we didn't get to, Chappelle, in this episode?
Nah. I think we covered all of it. I think it's I think this was a like it was pretty like a ho hum episode of television for the most part, but there's so much being left on the cutting room floor that we're not
Yes.
seeing that we have questions about that most shows would explain. And for a second, I was annoyed, but now I'm kind of like, I'll allow it. You know what?
You know what?
Whatever. Don't explain the actual talking into the goat's mouth. Don't explain any of
It's
this stuff.
fine.
Whatever. Fine. We're here
Just
for a good
it's
time, not a long time.
vibes. It's vibes.
Vibes
And
only.
listen, if you don't explain it, it allows us to be very confused at and talk at great lengths about how the hell did this go wrong. And if
Yeah.
they had explained it more, then we wouldn't be able to do that. We would just say, okay, this is what happened.
Yeah. So there you
So
go.
at least we have that. But that is it for this episode. Chappelle, what else do you have going on these days?
Catch me on Recap Kickback, my own podcast where I talk about whatever I want to talk about. We've been having a great time as we creep up on 1,000 subscribers. And so if you're not already a subscriber on YouTube, go to youtube.com/at Recap Kickback to let me know that you are a big old fan and that you want to support me getting to my 1,000 so that YouTube can pay me, because that's the goal. And so let's go make that money, y'all. Pay this man, YouTube. I'm talking to you. So do that. And then, of course, keep up with all the other podcasting that I'm doing right now. And then follow me on social media at Recap Kickback.
Yes. Chappelle, you were missed this past week on the MILF Manor recap over on the 90 Day Fiance feed. Puya and Rob and I got together to recap the latest episode, so check that out. And we will be back. Thank you for your patience on this episode. It's been a busy couple of days in the holiday down in the States, and but we'll be back within a few more days with our episode 6 recap of the GOAT, and I'm hoping we'll have a fun little guest join us on the next one. Should be a good time. Thanks for checking us out and sticking with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace.